Moving on now to passage number 4. 32 we're going to skip. It's a general question. We're going to skip 33. It's a general question. 34 is a general question because we don't know how yet Wolf will be using the word we, though of course it's kind of a keyword question as well because we need to find the word we throughout the passage, but we'll wait on that. 35, according to the passage, Wolf chooses the setting of the bridge because it. This seems to be specific. It's a keyword question. The keyword here is bridge. So wherever in the passage they talk about the bridge, it's probably where we're going to find our answer. 36, Wolf indicates that the procession she describes in the passage, again, another keyword question. So wherever they talk about the procession, we're probably going to find our answer. And we also have a two-part question here. 38 on line 53 to 57 with a follow-up. And then 40 is on line 70 to 71. And then 41 to 72 to 76. Okay, so here's the deal. There's no early specific question in this passage. The first real specific question that we know exactly where to find the answer is number 38, which is lines 53 to 57. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to 35. I'm going to start reading the passage until I find this bridge, and then I'll answer that question. So let's do that. Okay, this passage is adapted from this. Wolf considers the situation of women in English society. Close at hand is a bridge. Here we go. Over the River Thames, an admirable vantage ground for us to make a survey. The river flows beneath, barges pass laden with timber, bursting with corn. There on one side are the domes and spires of the city, on the other, Westminster and the Houses of Parliament. It is a place to stand on by the hour, dreaming. But not now. Now we are pressed for time. Now we are here to consider facts. Now we must fix our eyes upon the procession. There's that word which we saw for another question. The procession of the sons of educated men. So the question was why she chose the bridge? Yeah. So why choose the setting of the bridge? Notice she says that it is an admirable vantage grounds for us to make a survey. Now we're here. We must fix our eyes upon the procession of the sun. So she picked this because you can see this procession. You can see these people, and most likely we're going to learn more about these people in the next paragraph. So let's see if we can ask this question or answer this. Is conducive to a mood of fanciful reflection. I think it says that right here, right? It is a place to stand on by the hour, dreaming, but not now. So that's not why now we want to be on the bridge. Provides a good view of the procession of sons of educated men. Yeah, I think that fits perfectly. Yep. Procession of sons of educated men. Sure. Is within sight of historic episodes to which she alludes. I don't think she alludes to any historic episodes, just buildings, and this is not really mentioned specifically anyway. Is symbolic of the legacy of past and present sons of educated men. I don't think it says it's symbolic of their legacy. It's just that we can literally watch them as they proceed down wherever it is they're going. So we'll get rid of D. We'll go with B. Now, 36 was about the procession. Wolf indicates that the procession she described in the passage. So let's keep reading and see if we get more information. We know that they're the sons of educated men, but let's see what else we can pick up. There they go, our brothers who have been educated at public schools and universities, mounting those steps, passing in and out of those doors, ascending those pulpits, preaching, teaching, administering justice, practicing medicine, transacting business, making money. It is a solemn sight always, a procession, like a caravanserai crossing a desert. But now, for the past 20 years or so, it is no longer a sight merely, a photograph, or fresco scrawled upon the walls of time, at which we can look with merely an aesthetic appreciation. For there, traipsing along at the tail end of the procession, we go ourselves, and that makes a difference. So we'll come back to who we is in a second, but let's see if we can answer this question. So this procession is a procession of men, the sons of educated men, and they are kind of the leaders in society in economics, in education, in medicine, business. So let's see what we got in the choices. She indicates that the procession has come to have a more practical influence in recent years. Almost not the opposite, but not just the recent years, right? This is the sons of educated men who've presumably always been in power, right? You may look at this and say, oh, for the past 20 years or so, it is no longer a sight merely, but we'll get into what's going on there. This doesn't have anything to do with how these men are in power now and how they've been in power for presumably a long time. So we can get rid of A. Has become a celebrated feature of English public life. Doesn't really say that specifically, I don't think. Nope. Includes all of the richest and most powerful men in England. So be careful here. We've got some extreme language. We'll talk about trap choices in a later video. Watch out for the word all. Includes all of the richest and powerful men. Certainly it includes rich and powerful men, but maybe not all of them. It's a bit strong, so I think we can get rid of C. And indeed we can, because there's no evidence that it's all those powerful men. How about D? Has become less exclusionary in its membership in recent years. So D might work, but here's the thing. We don't have enough evidence yet. Let's keep reading, and let's try to figure out what's going on in this middle transition with who the we are, right? For there, traipsing along at the tail end of the procession, we go ourselves, and that makes a difference. We who have looked so long at the pageant in books, or from a curtained window watched educated men leaving the house at about 9:30 to go to an office, returning to the house at about 6:30 from an office, need look passively no longer. We too can leave the house, can mount those steps, pass in and out of those doors, make money, administer justice. We who now agitate these humble pens may in another century or two speak from a pulpit. Nobody will dare contradict us then. We shall be the mouthpieces of the divine spirit. A solemn thought, is it not? Who can say whether, as time goes on, we may not dress in military uniform, with gold lace on our breasts, swords at our sides, and something like the old family coal scuttle on our heads, save that the venerable object was never decorated with plumes of white horsehair. You laugh. Indeed, the shadow of the private house still makes those dresses look a little queer. Okay, let's stop there. So who is the we? The we is women. And notice we know that with help to a certain extent from the blurb, right? We're talking about the position or the situation of women in society. And the point she's making here is no longer do we simply have to look at this procession from behind a curtained window. We can be part of the procession. So when we go back to 36D, this looks pretty good, right? It's become less exclusionary. It's not just men anymore. It's also women. So we'll go with D. Now, which one provides the best answer to the previous question? So we're looking from lines 12 to 34. So we'll bracket this off. 34 to 12. Let's try to find the clues we saw ourselves, and then we'll go to the choices. We too can leave the house, can mount those steps, pass in and out of those doors. That looks pretty good. So something maybe around line 30. 30 to 34. Yep, this looks pretty good. So I like D. This matches those lines that say we too can be part of this procession. How about 12 to 17? We'll always double check all the answers. So 12 to 17 just talks about the men in this procession, not that women can now join this procession. 17 to 19. It is a solemn sight, always a procession. No, again, more about the men, not about the women now being allowed to be part of it. 23 to 24. For there, traipsing along at the tail end of the procession, we go ourselves. That's pretty good too, right? Because now it's showing that it's less exclusionary. It's this portion. Okay, so now we have to decide between these two. This portion, the benefits of this one is it's right here, is it does mention the procession, and it says that now, we go ourselves on this procession. That's pretty good. How about 30 to 34? We too can leave the house, can mount those steps, pass in and out of those doors, make money, and administer justice. We who now agitate these humble pens may in another century or two speak from a pulpit. So one problem with this choice is the portion on the end about speaking from a pulpit doesn't seem to have anything to do with joining the procession, right? Whereas these lines focus mostly on the procession, these don't, right? We want to find the one that focuses on the procession. The fact that, okay, now they are, can... Well, I mean, this is part of the procession, I suppose. But in any event, so which one would we want to go with here? Probably because C focuses on the procession, which is what the previous question discusses, we're going to go with this evidence instead of D. And so if we look again closer at D, we do have some. I mean, this is not really the procession. This is the issue, right? This is not the procession. The procession, this is just kind of walking into the buildings, going into the office as they're discussing in the previous part. So these mounting the steps, passing in and out of the doors refers to the office, not the procession. Making money and administer justice, speaking from a pulpit. This at least shows the women have more power and more positions in society, but it's not talking about the procession, which the previous question is referring to specifically. So that's why we're going to go with C over the others. So cross out D. Okay, let's see. Let's take a look at 34. I mean, we might be able to answer this now. Why does she use we throughout the passage? Well, it's to highlight that she's speaking to specifically a group of women who had previously been excluded from certain things in society. So let's see. Reflect the growing friendliness among a group of people. It's not friendliness. It's anything, well, yeah, like C, solidarity, right? How they've come together and for a common cause. It's not that they're friendly to each other. Advance the need for candor among a group of people. Candor is like being open, honest, and frank. And while that may be part of it, there's nothing here specifically that says the focus is on candor. The focus is on them coming together to reach new positions in society, which C does well. Establish a sense of solidarity among a group of people, right? We can do this, we can do this, we can do that, right? That's your solidarity, your strength in numbers. Reinforce the need for respect among a group of people. So maybe it's respect to a group of people, not necessarily respect among a group of people. And it's not about respect primarily here, right? I mean, look at this line right here. We too can leave the house, can mount those steps, make money. We who now agitate these humble pens may in another century or two speak for a pulpit. It's all about what they can do as a group, what they can do as a powerful entity. So we're going to go with C on this one. Still waiting on 32 and 33, so let's continue reading and let's answer 38. This one's about lines 53 to 57. And it's about these questions. And the question is, how does she characterize these questions? Okay, but we have not come here. Sorry, this got blocked again by this annoying approved symbol. I guess it's something like, but we have not come here to talk of fashions, men's and women's. We are here on the bridge to ask ourselves certain questions. And they are very important questions, and we have very little time in which to answer them. So that might be the answer to our question. Let's see. These questions that we have to ask and to answer about that procession during this moment of transition are so important that they may well change the lives of all men and women forever. For we have to ask ourselves here and now, do we wish to join that procession or don't we? On what terms shall we join that procession? Above all, where is it leading us, the procession of educated men? The moment is short. It may last 5 years, 10 years, or perhaps only a matter of a few months longer. But you will object, you have no time to think. You have your battles to fight, your rent to pay, your bazaars to organize. That excuse shall not serve you, madam. Let's stop there. How does Woolf characterize these questions? As important and urgent, right? Very little time to answer them. Controversial and threatening? No. Perhaps controversial, not really specifically mentioned there. Threatening, maybe, but again, not specifically mentioned. Weighty, which means kind of like important. And unanswerable? No. Unanswerable is not correct because these are questions that need answers, that they're looking for answers. Maybe they don't have answers to them yet, but it's not that they're unanswerable. And it doesn't match with what we saw in the passage. Momentous and pressing. Yes, momentous means important. Pressing means urgent. So C looks good. Provocative and mysterious. So again, provocative might work. Mysterious doesn't seem to work at all. So we'll get rid of D and we'll go with C. Which choice provides the best evidence? Well, if we go back, this portion right here looked pretty good, right? And they are very important and we have very little time. That's 48 to 49. That's this choice. So B looks pretty good. 46 to 47. We are here on the bridge to ask ourselves certain questions. This doesn't talk about how Woolf characterizes the questions. 57. The moment is short. Okay, that's good, but it doesn't capture the whole answer. It doesn't capture the important portion. That's all right, but not quite there. And then that excuse shall not serve you, madam. This has nothing to do with the questions themselves, so we'll go with B. Which choice most closely captures the meaning of the figurative sixpence referred to in lines 70 to 71? So notice figurative here, basically metaphorical or non-literal. So what does the sixpence symbolize, or what is it? What kind of comparison does it bring out? Does it evoke? So let's find the sixpence here and here. So let's keep reading and see what the meaning of this figurative sixpence is. As you know from your own experience, and there are facts that prove it, the daughters of educated men have always done their thinking from hand to mouth, not under green lamps at study tables in the cloisters of secluded colleges. They have thought while they stirred the pot, while they rocked the cradle. It was thus that they won us the right to our brand new sixpence. It falls to us now to go on thinking. How are we to spend that sixpence? Think we must. Let us think in offices and omnibuses while we are standing in the crowd watching coronations and Lord Mayor's shows. Okay, let's stop there. So sixpence, they don't define it for us, right? So let's pretend we don't know exactly what a sixpence is, but notice this key phrase. How are we to spend that sixpence? So sixpence is kind of like money, and it is the women in the past who have done their thinking while doing their domestic duties that have won us this right to the sixpence. How are we going to spend it? So what does a sixpence mean? It's kind of like an opportunity, or literally sixpence is money, but it's an opportunity. It's a chance to advance. So let's see. Tolerance? No. Knowledge? Not quite. It's more, an opportunity. Perspective? No. This is an opportunity, right? Because they want to know, how are we going to spend that sixpence? Like, how are we going to use our newfound possibilities? We have to think about it, right? And we can see, as we'll see in a little bit, it's about whether or not we join this procession and how we work in society. Okay, so let's keep reading. We want to read for 72 to 76 and determine how the range of places and occasions listed in these lines serves to emphasize, what it serves to emphasize. So let's see. Think we must. Let us think in offices and omnibuses while we're standing in the crowd watching coronations and Lord's Mayor shows. Let us think in the gallery of the House of Commons, in the law courts. Let us think at baptisms and marriages and funerals. So let's just finish this. Let us never cease from thinking. What is this civilization in which we find ourselves? What are these ceremonies, and why should we take part in them? What are these professions, and why should we make money out of them? Where, in short, is it leading us? The procession of the sons of educated men. So these range of places just shows how it serves to emphasize, I would say, the many different places that women will find themselves, whether in ordinary situations like a baptism or a funeral, or in, more formal situations in the working world, in the political world, in the law world, and so on. So let's see. Mainly serves to emphasize how novel the challenge faced by women is. Doesn't really say anything about the novelty of the challenge, specifically there. How pervasive the need for critical reflection is. Yeah, pervasive means how widespread or deeply entrenched this need would be. And that makes sense, right? If you have to think about these questions everywhere you are, it's a pervasive need. How complex the political and social issues of the day are. Doesn't really capture the main idea here, which is you have to think very hard about these issues and you have to think about them everywhere. How enjoyable the career possibilities for women are. It's not just about careers, as we saw with the funerals and marriage thing. So best choice here is B. All right, we've done all the specific questions. We've read the whole passage. Now we'll do the generals. What is the main purpose of the passage? I would say the main purpose of the passage is to bring up questions about a future course of action or future possibilities. Emphasize the value of a tradition? No, almost just the opposite, right? That we have to rethink the values of traditions. Stress the urgency of an issue? It seems pretty good, right? There are multiple points in this essay where the author says, we have the moment is now. We have to think about this now. It's right, urgent. It's pressing, as we saw for number 38. Highlight the severity of social divisions? No, just the opposite. That maybe they were, maybe there were more divisions back in the day, but now there's much more opportunity, and they have to think about how they're going to use that opportunity. Question the feasibility of an undertaking? No, it's not about whether they can do it. It's about what they should do and how they should do it. So it looks like B is going to work. What's the central claim of the passage? Again, pretty similar to what we said for 32. I would say the central claim is that women have an opportunity that they didn't have in the past, and they have to think about how they're going to use this opportunity. Something like that. Educated women face a decision about how to engage with existing institutions. Yeah, right? So especially towards the end, we saw this, right? Are we going to participate in these ceremonies? Are we going to participate in these professions? If so, why? If not, what do we do instead, right? So that looks pretty good. Central claim is that women can have positions of influence in English society only if they give up some of their traditional roles. It says nothing specifically in the passage that they have to give up their traditional roles. It's all about gaining new ones. Central claim is that the male monopoly on power in English society has had grave and continuing effects. I don't think it says anything here specifically about the negative effects of the power of men at this point, more about the opportunity for women. Finally, the entry of educated women into positions of power traditionally held by men will transform those positions. So maybe this is close. The question is, will they, and by how much? That's what they have to think about. Are we going to change the ceremonies? Are we going to change the professions? Where are we going if we continue on the path that has been set for us? So the entry of educated women it could be true, right? It might change these positions, but that's still up in the air. So the best choice here is A. So let's just double check that we did all of these, and we did. Let's move on to the last passage of this test, which is the dual passage.